So this is an almost 40 broadcast coming to you live. How's your day? Well, mine busy, 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 busy. Very busy. But I still have some things to do, but I don't want to do it without the Word of God. Because, you know, God has been good to me, and um, and I know that it's good to do everything with God first. So, I think I'm just going to get right into it because I need to have a little woo-saw moment. I have been very untethered um, this week, and I have to apologize to my coworkers, whom at times it seemed like I wasn't even listening to them because I'm trying to figure out other things in my head that I got to do. And it's not that I wasn't there in the room. I just kind of checked out because I had other things I had to deal with. And sometimes I snapped at people. And, you got to take the good with the bad. And I think this is what happens when you wait way too long to have a vacation, to have a little you time. This is this is this is the end of the rope, the end of the tether, the bottom of the barrel. Don't let the last stick be drawn. But anyways, I digress. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. God, help me not to focus on my stress and not to make my stress bigger than you, because you are bigger than any fleeting moment, any passing feeling and thought of stress, any fleeting situation, God. It says that the joys that we will face in heaven are not to be compared with what we're going on, what we're going through here at this present time. So, God, in this time of suffering, of trials, of tribulations, of testings, of temptations, hurdles, be the staff of our comfort. Let us know that we can lean on you. When we just feel weathered by everything that's going on in our lives, every responsibility that we have to attend to. Everything that's hard and doesn't come easy. God, let us rely on you. You say that my burden is light. So, God, I just take my heavy load and I put it over to you right now. And I want to, God, you think about it. Everything I see that is undone, that needs to be done, at this moment, I'm putting it in your hands. Because I know you can do it without all the stress and all of the fighting and the turmoil and the agony. You are able. Oh, 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 you are able. Oh, you are able. God's able to do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. He is able. Oh, he is able. He's able. He's able. He is able. He is able. God is able to do. God, you are able to do everything that the Bible says you will do. And God, you will fulfill every promise. You're not a man that you should lie. You're not a mortal that you should die. That you don't control fate. So you are able. I praise you, God. I give you the glory. You are good, and your mercy is forever. Lord, as I read this word tonight, give me the strength I need to proceed with the chores I have to finish, with the fleets and the events and that I have to attend, and the people that I have to interact with, and everything that I have to do. Give me the strength. Give me the strength. And I pray that prayer for anyone who is listening, that you will give them the strength, that you will give them an assurance and a knowing in their heart and in their mind right now, that you will fulfill every promise to them that is in the Bible, that you will fulfill every promise to them that is in the Bible, that you have for them, Lord. Fulfill it. You are able. You are able. You are able. Remember your loving kindness and your tender mercy, for they have ever been of old. God, you are able. There is grace even for this moment, even for the moments that we feel lost, torn apart, weathered, destitute. In strife, put out. Past our breaking point. God, you are strong in those times. You are able to fulfill your promise even in those times. You are mighty and you will fulfill your promise. You work in those times when you don't seem apparent. So God, I know you're working behind the scenes, and Lord, as this word is read, I thank you that the Holy Spirit will reveal all truth and give revelation, and that you will give strength for the next task at hand. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Okily dokily. This is no jokily. uh, okay, so how did we get Ezra? Where I left off, Saul was first such a stand-up guy, like stand-up guy. Like, this is the guy I want to be my husband. This is the guy that is just at showing himself to be good, in almost every way. And then he makes a mistake and he gets impatient and he tries to go without God. He tries to do something without God, without the prophet, not being obedient to rank and to position. and the kingdom is immediately taken from him. Samuel says, "Why have you done this? Now that you've done this, you're no longer the king." And, there's Saul. He's ready to fight, um, and defeat the Philistines, but he's at this crossroads where it's like, okay, the kingdom is ripped from him, and he's in the middle of battle. So we're gonna read from here. Saul reigned 1 year. I'm just gonna make sure. Hold on. Anyways, I'm just gonna go from here. Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash, and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin, and the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent. And Jonathan smote the garrisons of the Philistines that was at Gibeah, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard say this, that Saul had smitten a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also was had an abomination with the Philistines. And the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal. So here Saul, I noticed that Saul took the credit for Jonathan's smoting of the Philistines, because it says here, Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines. And all Israel heard say that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines. Saul did not. It was not him. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots. That's the first sign of a bad boss, taking credit for someone else's work. And 6,000 horsemen. And people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash eastward from Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves and in thickets and in rocks and in high places and in pits. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, "Bring hither a burnt offering to me, and peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass. Oh, sorry, I read this. That as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. Okay, so I read this. Sorry, I had read this already. So yes, now we get to see a little bit more of the situation. So chapter 13 is definitely a fall of character for Saul, where he's taking credit for his son's victory, and then he does this, and then we know what happens. Samuel takes the kingdom away from him because he went ahead and did something that was not okay with Samuel. Now it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan the son of Saul said unto the young man that bare his armor, "Come and let us go over the Philistines' garrison, that it is on the other side." But he told not his father. And Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree, which is in Migron. And the people that were with him were about 600 men. And Aiah, the son of Ahitub, Achabud's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest at Shiloh, wearing an ephod, and the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. So he's chilling out with Eli's sons, who we already know is wicked. So Saul is tarrying in the uttermost part of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree with some wicked guy, Eli's son. And we all know Eli's sons were terrible. And between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over into the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on one side and a sharp rock on the other side. And the name of one was Bozez, and the name of the other Sheneh. The forefront of the one was situate northward over against Michmash, and the other southward over against Gibeah. And Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, Come and let us go over into the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. And his armor bearer said unto him, Do all that is in thine heart. So that's a good saying. There is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. So numbers, being outnumbered does not matter. Numbers do not matter to God. Numbers do not matter to God. We have to remember that, because we see things in such balanced, equal way, which is a good way to see things. But we have to understand, like, look at the whole Putin thing. Oh goodness. Ukraine. Look at Ukraine and look at Putin. So much more men, so much more artillery, so much more this, that, and the third. But numbers don't matter to God. There is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. And his armor bearer said unto him, Do that is in thine heart. Turn thee, behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. Then said Jonathan, Behold, we will pass over unto these men, and we will discover ourselves unto them. If they say thus and thus unto us, tarry until we come to you, and then we will stand still in our place, and will not go up unto them. But if they say thus, Come up unto us, then we will go up, for the Lord has delivered them into our hand, and this shall be a sign unto us. And both of them discovered themselves unto the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, Behold, the Hebrews come forth out of the holes where they had hid themselves. So this is a true David and Goliath scene where, like, everybody's hiding, everybody is in hiding, but here comes Jonathan now to take them on. And both of them discovered themselves onto the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, Behold. And the men of the garrisons answered Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, Come up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said unto his armor bearer, Come up after me, for the Lord has delivered them into the hand of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer slew after him. And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men, within as it were half an acre of land, which a yoke of oxen might plow. And there was trembling in the host, in the field, and among all the people, the garrisons, and the spoilers. They also trembled, and the earth quaked, My mother. I hope this finishes soon. Okay. And the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away, and they went on beating down one another. Then said Saul unto the people that were with him, Number now, and see who is gone from us. And when they had numbered, behold, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. And Saul said unto Aiah, Bring hither the ark of God. For the ark of God was at that time with the children of Israel. And it came to pass, while Saul talked unto the priests, that the noise that was in the host of the Philistines went on and increased. And Saul said unto the priest, Withdraw thine hand. And Saul and all the people that were with him assembled themselves, and they came to the battle. And behold, every man's sword was against his fellow, and there was a very great discomfiture. And moreover, the Hebrews that were with the Philistines before that time, which went up with them into the camp from the country round about, even they also turned to be with the Israelites that were with Saul and Jonathan. Likewise, all the men of Israel which had hid themselves in Mount Ephraim, when they heard that the Philistines fled, even they also followed hard after them in the battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over unto Bethlehem. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, Cursed be the man that eateth any food until evening, that I may be avenged on my enemies. So none of the people tasted any food. And all they of the land came to a wood, and there was honey upon the ground. And when the people were come into the wood, behold, the honey dropped, but no man put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Jonathan heard not when his father charged the people with the oath. Wherefore he put forth the end of the rod that is in his hand, and dipped it in a honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened. Then answered one of the people, and said, Thy father straitly charged the people with an oath, saying, Cursed be the man that eateth any food this day. And the people were faint. Then said Jonathan, My father has troubled the land. See, I pray you, how my eyes have been enlightened, because I tasted a little of this honey. How much more if haply the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies which they found? For had there not been now a much greater slaughter among the Philistines? And they smote the Philistines that day from Michmash to Ajon, and the people were very faint. And the people flew upon the spoil, and took sheep and oxen and calves, and slew them on the ground. And the people did eat them with the blood. And they told Saul, saying, Behold, the people sin against the Lord, in that they eat the blood. And they said, They have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day. And Saul said, Disperse yourselves among the people, and say unto them, Bring me thither every man his ox, and every man his sheep, and slay them here and eat, and sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood. And all the people brought every man his ox, and with him that night, and slew them there. And Saul built an altar unto the Lord. The same was the first altar that he built unto the Lord. And Saul said, Let us go down after the Philistines by night, and spoil them until the morning light, and let us not leave a man of them. And they said, Do whatsoever seemeth good unto thee. Then said the priest, Let us draw near hither unto God. And Saul asked counsel of God, Shall I go down after the Philistines? Wilt thou deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he answered them not that day. And Saul said, Draw ye near hither, all the chief of the people, and know and see wherein this sin has been this day. For as the Lord liveth, which saveth Israel, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. But there was not a man among all the people that answered him. Then said he unto Israel, Be on one side, and I and Jonathan my son will be on the other side. And all the people said unto Saul, Do what seemeth good unto thee. Therefore Saul said unto the Lord God of Israel, Give a perfect lot. And Saul and Jonathan were taken, but the people escaped. And Saul said, "Cast lots between me and Jonathan my son." And Jonathan was taken. Then Saul said to Jonathan, "Tell me what thou hast done." And Jonathan told him and said, "I did but taste a little honey with the end of the rod that was in mine hand, and lo, I must die." And Saul answered, "God do so and more also, for thou shalt surely die, Jonathan." And the people said unto Saul, "Shall Jonathan die, who has wrought this great salvation in Israel? God forbid. As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has wrought with God this day." So the people rescued Jonathan, that he died not. Then Saul went up from following the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. So Saul took the kingdom over Israel and fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab and against the children of Ammon and against Edom and against the kings of Zebdah and against the Philistines. And whithersoever he turned himself, he vexed them. And he gathered an host and smote the Amalekites and delivered Israel out of the hands of them that spoiled them. Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan and Ishu and Melchishah, and the names of his two daughters were these: the name of the firstborn Merab, and the name of the younger Machal. And the name of Saul's wife was Aniom, and the daughter of Ahimaaz. The name of the captain of the host was Abner, the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. And Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. And there was sore war against the Philistine all the days of Saul. And when Saul saw any strong man or any valiant man, he took him unto him. So there's a lot going on in here. First thing, be it that Saul is acting like, a crazy man now. He's not doing right. He's telling everybody to fast when they should not be fasting in the middle of a battle. Hold on one second. I gotta turn down my oven. But Saul is just so delusional now. He couldn't see right if his life depended on it, because he's just out of the way. Everything he does is going to be the wrong thing to do. He's just out of the way. So he calls this fast. Everybody, because he's digging in his heels deeper, because sometimes you want to overcompensate where you have gone wrong. And usually you go wrong because of stubbornness. And so when you say to yourself, I'm going to be yet even more stubborn, and I'm going to try even harder now to, I don't know, how should I say this? Get into God's good graces, I guess, by the flesh. You cannot do anything by the flesh. You cannot please God by the flesh. It says God will only be worshipped in spirit. And, the flesh cannot please God. So off of your own intellect and the way that you think, it's just not, it's not good enough. It's dirty rags. The only way for you to know what to do is to listen to God. And when you are out of the way and busy not asking God what to do, um, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. You're making bad decisions, even though it seems like the right thing to do. It seems very much so. Hey, fast. You want to get God's attention. You want to win this victory. Call a fast. Suffer for God. Um, implore Him. But if that's not what God's asking you to do, it's actually wrong. And this is the fine line in the sand with God, because anybody would say, oh, how is fasting wrong? Well, here you see how the whole thing backfired. So what happened is a couple things happened. Um, First of all, he ends up having supposing to have to kill his son because he makes a curse, and it also the whole mission is cursed because he cursed the whole mission, saying if anybody eats, they're going to be, cursed be the land. So then Jonathan eats it, not knowing. He didn't have everybody there. This is the thing with the breakdown of communication. If I could bring this verse to work, we would not be in a lot of the situations that we get into because everybody is heard, but certain people were not there. You got to make sure you get the message out completely. So he knew his son was not there. So I don't know, why, because he sent his son away with 1,000 men, why he would make this proclamation without making sure that his son's camp was in the know about it. So anyways, what we have here is now he has to kill the land is cursed, their battle is cursed, they cannot win, and he's supposed to kill his son, and his son is like, no, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't have put this line in the sand. And that's the thing, you have to be very careful about making lines in the sand because the devil or whatever, the universe, whatever, will call your bluff on drawing a line in the sand, because it will humble you to show you are not God. You will be humbled to show you that you are not God. So always just say, if the Lord will, we will do this or that. But not only that, the people were so ravenously hungry by the end of their battle because they were starving to death. And they were also had to take on the Philistines that, sorry, there's a lot to explain here, that they began eating the animals whole with the blood. They were so hungry. Our animal instincts kick in at some point, and it shows how ravenous animal instincts are. So now he has to kill all these people who ate the animals with the blood, but it was his fault in the first place that ever happened because he called that stupid fast, when if they had eaten happily, they would have defeated, as Jonathan said, they would have defeated the entire army of the Philistines and had a great victory that day. But because he had called that fast, he had set them back. So all that to be said, that we need food. We need food to win the battle, to go into battle, to do things. Food is not just, oh, we don't need it. No, we need food to win the battle. We're physical. We're not here as spirit yet. Therefore, we need food for strength. Okay? So you have to tell people that these days, because keto and all these things, they think they can starve themselves. Still have victory in life. And it's not that. You have victory in life by, not by fasting. It's a great thing. You have victory in life not by fasting. You have victory in life by listening to God, by knowing what is the word of God, the will of God. Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. And Saul gathered all the people together. Oh yes, I have to mention one thing. So Jonathan Great was saved from being slaughtered by his father, because here they were ingratiated to the enemy. Here they were mingled with the enemy in order to live, because they were afraid of them. Here they were mingled up and yoked up with them, serving their gods and talking with them and everything, but just mostly under fear. And Jonathan took up the battle and fought against them, and finally, did away with that fear, with that evil that was in their life. And that's why the men of Saul decided to save Jonathan and say, no, he actually stood up on God's side. He is not dying. He's not dying. Not one hair of his head will fall to the ground. That's what they said. So anyways, now God is sending him to get rid of the Amalek people. Yes. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telem, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, go depart, get you down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites, and Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good. And would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse, and they destroyed utterly. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he is turned back from following me, and has not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. So, what is Saul following? He's following his discretion, because he only destroys the things that were vile and that were no good. But the things that he thought were good, he kept. So this is, again, lean not on your own understanding. He's digging himself. The more he uses his own judgment, the more he digs himself in a hole, because he was plainly told what to do. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and is gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, Blessed be thou of the Lord, I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen, and sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said unto Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord has said to me this night. And he said unto him, Say on. And Samuel said, When thou wast little in thine own sight, was thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel. And the Lord sent thee on to journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners of Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said unto Samuel, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag the king of the Amalekites, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the spoil sheep and oxen, chief of things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. That's a lie, because it clearly told you that the narrator told you what actually happened, which it was Saul and himself and the people that were doing it. And Samuel said, Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected thee from being king. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord. And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee, for thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected thee from being king over Israel. And as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle, and it rent. And Samuel said unto him, The Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day, and has given it to a neighbor of thine that is better than thou. And also the strength of Israel will not lie nor repent, for he is not a man that he should repent. Then he said, I have sinned. Yet honor me now, I pray thee, before the elders of my people, and before Israel, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord thy God. So Samuel turned again after Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Then said Samuel, Bring thee hither to me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag, I can't believe this guy is still alive, came onto him delicately. And Agag said, Surely the bitterness of death is past. And Samuel said, As thy sword has made women childless, so shall thy mother be childless among the women. And Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went to his house to Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel came no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord repented that he had made Saul king over Israel. What a disaster. What a disaster. What a sad, 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 sad story. What a sad story. You know, Samuel had to do the business that Saul was sent to do because he just couldn't face the facts that he didn't do it. He's saying that he utterly destroyed Amalekite, but why was he there? I don't know. Is it delusion? Is Saul delusional? And the Lord said unto Samuel, this is like the beginnings of schizophrenia. It's like your story is not adding up. And this is why in the story too, Saul has so many mental problems, because he is lying to himself all the time. And the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil, and go, and I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, take a heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. So I don't know. This is not. This is the holy lie. This is kind of like a lie. He's got to kind of disguise what he's doing, because and God is telling him to disguise what he's doing. So again, it shows you how, you know, what's right and wrong in our eyes is actually not right and wrong. It's what God says is right. And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do, and thou shalt anoint unto me him who I name unto thee. And Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, comest thou peaceably? So Samuel is a priest, but he is dangerous, because, like, remember, he just hewn down Agag. So these people are scared, straight up scared about Samuel right now. So they're asking if he comes in peace. And he said, peaceably, I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice, and sanctify Jesse and his sons, and call them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, nor on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So even this great priest, who has seen a thing or two in his life, and many people, and is well traveled, thinks that this kid before him is the guy. But God's like, no, you don't know what I know about this guy. You don't know what I know about this guy. God knows, all that to say, God knows everything about you. And God knows about those people who you revere and you think are perfect. So know Eliab. And Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, neither has the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, I like how it was just written, neither has the Lord chosen this meaning like a vessel, not this vessel. Remember, we are vessels of the Lord. That will help to bring us out of ourselves and remember that we are a this of God, a vessel made by him to bring about his good in the earth, not our own. A lot of people turn themselves into God, and this is where Satan fell, because he wanted to be God and the world seemed to revolve around him. But no, you are this. You are a vessel unto God. And Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither has the Lord chosen this. Again Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord has not chosen these. And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance, goodly to look to. And the Lord said, Arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. So it's like it's like that. I don't want to say the yin and yang, but it's like that duality of where, where the love that he loved him, that woman at one time, is now equivalent to the hate that he hated that woman, Tamar, right? So it's like you're going on two different sides of the scale here. And, you know, this is why you can't be tossed to and fro. You just got to be steady. You can't be too much this and too much that. Just pray to be in the middle. Let our Lord now command thy servant which is before thee to seek out a man who is a cunning player on the harp, and it shall come to pass when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. So this is where music is a balm. Music is a healing for mental illness. Music is used to heal mental illness in the Bible. Here we have Saul with his mental illness, troubled by a spirit, and here they come with the music. And Saul said unto his servants, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants and said, Behold, I have seen the son of Jesse of Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty violent man, a man of war, a prudent in matters, and comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armament bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he has found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. So we all know the story, how he ends up throwing a javelin at him at times. So Saul is just a man of mental illness, okay? Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Succoth, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Succoth and Azekah in Ephes Dammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah. And so sometimes you feel like, oh, how come I'm not emotional more? How come I'm not more feeling crazy over this person? Sometimes just leave it. You don't want to be going from this extreme to the next, to over here to over there, to no. Sometimes if you're just even killed, just leave it at even killed. That's a good place to be. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of his coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders, and the staff on his spear. So they're really building this up so that you understand that no matter what your enemies have, no matter how the cards are stacked up against you, If you listen to God, you're going to be fine. And he had a helmet of brass upon the head, and was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him, and he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me, and to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him, and kill him, then shall ye be our servants, and serve us. And the Philistine said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. These people are marked and branded by just constantly making fun of the Israelites. So, be careful if that's your thing, because it could bite you in the butt the way that it does for the Philistines. And the Philistines said, oh, because even when Saul was any good, he would just do what he's going to do. He just defeat who he's defeating. He didn't have too much to say. Oh, goodness. Almost done. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab, firstborn, the next unto him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. So he's got 2 jobs. He's working for Saul, and he's working for his father. So sometimes people feel bad that they're spinning their wheels kind of thin, but here we see a 2-job man, so maybe it's not that bad. And the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of... Oh, jeez. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, it's a long one. This parched corn, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren, and carry these 10 loaves unto the captain of their 1,000, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with the keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth the Philistines, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why camest thou down hither? So he's like, oh, look at this big talker, so vehement against him. Why did you come down here? With whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? So they're trying to belittle him, put him down. But, if God is on your side, you cannot be put down, obviously. I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him towards another, and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. When the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant keep his father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. So he's giving him his resume. This is why it's important to have a resume, because people will not know who you are. They will look at you, they will belittle you and say you cannot do this job, but you have to let them know the context of your character, what you have been through, and what you have done, because they can only see your visage. They cannot see what you've been through. And the servant slew both the lion and the bear, and the uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defiled the armies of the living God. David said moreover, The Lord has delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, and will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. Meaning he hasn't worked with them before. So it's like, me, I couldn't work with gloves a lot. I was an apprentice painter, and I couldn't work with the gloves because I couldn't do what I needed to do in them. So you have to, he hasn't checked it out. He says, I haven't checked it out how I work with this. I know I can kill the bear and the lion with my hands when I'm not wearing armor. So when I have this armor on, I can't do what I'm supposed to do, what I'm trying to do. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, even in a script. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistines. So he carried a bag. So I'm not the only bag woman here, okay? Bag person. He had a bag, even in his script. So it means he must be writing something. There's some writings in his bag. They're even like these rocks are even on his bag, okay? He's like putting his rocks in with his books. And the Philistines came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistines looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. And the Philistines said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with sword, and with spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defiled. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee. And take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcass of the host of thine Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistines arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and ran towards the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead with the stone. And that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon the face of the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the seat thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and of Judah arose, shouted, and pursued the Philistines until thou come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way of Sharim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as thou so liveth, O king, I cannot tell. So Saul is just a hot mess again. He sees this boy every day to exorcise his demons, and now he does not know who he is. And the king said, inquire thou whose son the stripling is. And David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, and Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistines in his hand. And Saul said unto him, whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite. Okay, I have to go because I have to be obedient. My mother is calling me. But every verse in there is something that is so popular, so famous, either part of a song or a story. Like the verses, like the battle is the Lord's. Like there's so many famous verses just in 1 Samuel 17 is a hot topic. Let me tell you something, like everything we quote in the church comes from this very chapter. So, David is just, what can I say? He killed it. Okay. And is what anything else I have to say, I will put in the notes, but I'm gonna go call my mama because she is still texting me. Peace.